Coming up on today's Locked On Dodgers, we talk about Gold Glove nominations. We talk a little bit about the Players' Choice Awards. We talk a little bit of news from around the league and talk about Cody Bellinger and some of the injuries from this year that could impact next year. So make sure to keep it Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. I'm Samperio. We want to thank you for making us your first listen every morning, every day. We want to remind you that we are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Samperio, Chavez Ravine Fiends, and this is Locked On Dodgers. And today we're going to get into a few topics about some news around the league, some award finalists and awards that were handed out, a little bit about Cody Bellinger and some of the discourse around him right now, and a little bit about injuries that can impact the Dodgers in 2022. We want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Download the app and join us to get in on the action. So let's start real quick with Gold Glove finalists, two that were probably expected, one that maybe wasn't expected by us Dodger fans, and that's AJ Pollock, who got a Gold Glove finalist for left field. And yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know how they pick these Gold Glove finalists sometimes. I mean, Andre Ethier had a Gold Glove award one time, and he was never that great on defense. But I guess, AJ Pollock did enough to sway whoever votes to get a Gold Glove finalist. So congrats to him. He has a Gold Glove in his past, but that's when he was seemingly a lot better on defense and playing center field for the Diamondbacks. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Mookie Betts got one in right field. Mookie Betts, even though he wasn't as great on defense, at least earlier in the year when the injuries were kind of bugging him, he's a guy that night in, night out is one of the better defenders in all of baseball, especially out there in right field. So even if it wasn't maybe 100% rightfully deserved, I don't think there's anybody clamoring for anyone else to put over Mookie Betts. And then the last one is Max Muncie, finalist at first base, which is just a testament to Max Muncie because last year in 2020, he played first base and he played it all right. He was probably the Dodgers' best first baseman other than Bellinger, but that didn't mean too much. He also made a few mistakes in key situations that just kind of left a bad taste in your mouth. But he really improved this year, was truly one of the best defensive first basemen out there. And yeah, it's deservedly so. So congrats to all those finalists for the Dodgers. We'll see how many they end up getting. They have 4 Silver Slugger finalists, 3 Gold Glove finalists. So that's a nice little haul if they can get a couple. The next award that a Dodger won, Max Scherzer won the National League Most Outstanding Pitcher, voted on by the Players Association. These awards don't carry as much merit as the actual Cy Young and MVP and all those things, but hey, it's an award, and Max Scherzer won it. And yeah, congrats to him. I don't think it's an indication that he's going to win Cy Young, but I do think that he's going to finish at least top 2 in Cy Young regardless. So that voting's already been done, so clearly it's not going to have an effect on it. But you never know. We'll see what happens there. And those awards, those finalists come out on Monday, and then those awards will be taken after, or will be awarded after the postseason. So we got a while before all that stuff happens. And then last final bit of news, the Padres found their new manager. They took Bob Melvin from the A's and signed him to, I believe, a 3-year deal. I'm not sure, but they signed him to be their manager. And honestly, that's a pretty big steal for them because he was with the A's. It looks like the A's are on a track to reduce payroll and maybe not be so good the next couple of years. So maybe that's why they were fine with letting Bob Melvin go. They didn't get any compensation back or anything like that. I guess, I don't know, released him from his contract and he went to go sign. But a nice pickup for the Padres. Bob Melvin's one of the more respected managers in all of baseball. He's able to connect with players old and young alike. He's able to command a locker room and kind of all the things that they really need over there that they didn't really get last year from Jace Tingler and kind of the second half collapse. It still could have happened under Bob Melvin, but it's maybe less likely, or at least the very least, less likely that all the resentment and rumors would have came out from the locker room around Tatis and kind of how that second half played out for them. So new manager in the NL West, good manager in the NL West, and now there's a bunch of good managers in the NL West. So we'll see what happens, but everybody still has to make their moves and do what they need to do. And I still think the Dodgers, have the upper hand when it comes to that, but remains to be seen. Other than that, there was I guess funny. I don't know. It depends how you think of PETA. I don't think of PETA too highly. I don't have the utmost respect for PETA, but they are urging MLB to change the term bullpen and use the word arm barn in reference to where relievers get ready to pitch and come into the game. And yeah, timing, I guess timing is right for them since it was an off day in the World Series. They definitely dominated the headlines on social media for a greater part of the day. And yeah, PETA, I don't think you're going to win this. Although I will say that arm barn isn't the worst name or term that I could think of. So if one day it came down to it and they just wanted to change the word bullpen, or they wanted to, or another team, wanted to call their bullpen something, the arm barn is not a terrible name. I kind of like it, but I don't think they're going to change the word bullpen just because of that. But it was funny nonetheless, and a little bit of laughter here on this day off with no World Series game. So shout out PETA for giving us that smile that we needed. That smile that we needed. All right, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk a little bit about Cody Bellinger and kind of the conversations that I've seen around him and about him on social media and Twitter specifically. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar in the world. You know it, or maybe you don't know it, but I know it, and you should know it if you don't already do so. Built Bars, they got a bunch of different flavors. They're all covered in chocolate. They all taste great. They got, pretty much any flavor you or whatever your palate is, whatever your taste palate is, they got something for you. And guess what? If you don't know what flavor you're going to like or which flavor you're going to love, you can always get a mixed box on the website where you'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors that are currently in rotation for Built Bar. So go to built.com, check those out. You can also check out the macros that these bars have, which is 17, 18 grams of protein, under 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams sugar, 4 to 5 gram net carbs. Can't beat that. You can't beat that, and you can't beat the taste. And Built Bars are great. I know we tell you guys a lot, but it's very true. They are. So right now, go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Back and want to thank you for making us your first listen every weekday morning. We appreciate it, and we would appreciate if you tell other people to make us their first listen every weekday morning, because the more the merrier. Why not? Let's get into this Cody Bellinger conversation now. Cody Bellinger had I saw it with a Yankee fan, and then I've just seen it in general that they think for some reason the Dodgers aren't going to hold on to Cody Bellinger, and they think that Cody Bellinger is going to be available, which, to a certain extent, everyone's available, but I don't see Cody Bellinger being that guy, especially coming off the season that he had. Probably the worst season by a former MVP that's not over 35. And for the Dodgers, we've talked about this before, they don't usually trade people with their lowest trade value. They, don't. Why would you do that? Why would you trade somebody, former MVP? You're not going to get him on a discount. He still has the ability to be an MVP in there. And kind of what we saw in the postseason was maybe not quite that, but Cody Bellinger this postseason was good, and he was really good for the Dodgers, and it was a welcome change to obviously how the 2021 season went for him. I mean, he had just the one home run, but he did knock in 7 RBIs in the 12 games. He had the game-winning hit in Game 5 of the NLCS or NLDS. He had the game-tying home run in Game 3 of the NLCS, and he just looked much better than he had in the regular season. Whether it was a change in approach, which we kind of saw, whether that's something that he's going to carry into next year, I don't think so. I think he's going to try to go back to his old swing and find that. A year removed from shoulder surgery and a year removed from, or months removed from all the other injuries he had, broken leg, hamstring, all that kind of stuff. Because from what we saw, Cody Bellinger did hit better later in the year and in the postseason, but he didn't have much of that power that we saw. He had that one home run that tied the game in Game 3 of the NLCS, but that was the only home run he had. And a lot of his hits were singles, and which is not a bad thing, but with a guy like Cody Bellinger's swing, that he's able to do more damage. So, and what I've seen is, the Yankees kind of need a first baseman, and I saw there was a Yankee fan or a Yankee page the other day, saying that Cody Bellinger could be a guy that the Yankees go after. They buy low and try to, rebuild his stock or whatever the case is. And then he wasn't very happy when people were mentioning that the Dodgers would never do that. Maybe he's not aware that the Dodgers don't trade people a low value or whatever the case may be. We had the discourse and conversation earlier this season, even with the Dodgers non-tender Cody Bellinger, and both Jeff and I said that that wouldn't happen. I think at the very least the Dodgers would have tried to buy out his arbitration years and give him a little bit maybe less than he would have got in 2 years arbitration had he been legit, but a little bit more than maybe he would have got because of what the precedent is already. So yeah, I don't think a non-tender is coming at all. So it's interesting to see the talk around Bellinger, especially with the fact that he was good in the postseason, and you kind of, I don't think it restores 100% the faith that Cody Bellinger is going to be an MVP candidate again in 2022, but it does restore the faith that he can be at least serviceable. And with his defense out there in center field, serviceable at the plate is more than enough you can ask for. He's still a top tier borderline all-star, even if he's mediocre at the plate and very strong on defense, or maybe a step above mediocre for an all-star type, but you know what I mean. And then I saw another article today from the New York Post talking, the Yankees. It says Matt Olson, Brandon Belt, Cody Bellinger, ? The Yankees increasingly risky options to replace Luke Voit. And that's the first base or DH role, I'm assuming, in New York. I believe Rizzo's a free agent. So, yeah, they don't have a first baseman, I guess, or they don't have a left-handed option at first base. If Luke Voit either gets hurt again or he can only hit against lefties. I don't know what the case is over there. I'm not a Yankee podcaster, but yeah, I don't know why Cody Bellinger's name gets brought up. I don't know what the Dodgers could be looking for that the Yankees have that would satisfy a trade to where the Dodgers feel like they got better by trading away Gold Glove caliber center fielder, Gold Glove caliber first baseman with the ability to hit 30, 40 home runs, and a MVP as recent as 2019. So when you see Cody Bellinger's name out there, I wouldn't put too much stock into it. It's a lot of other teams maybe wanting him, thinking they can buy low, thinking they can, get away with trading somebody of lesser value in order to get Cody Bellinger, and in order for their team to kind of fix him or turn him around, or hope that he turns around. The fact of the matter is, I would be severely shocked if Cody Bellinger isn't in the starting lineup on opening day in 2022 for the Dodgers. Either some crazy deal would have had to come up on their desk on, Andrew Friedman would have to get a call that of a deal he can't refuse, or I don't know. I don't think Cody Bellinger would ask for a trade. I don't think he has a reason to ask for a trade, but that's kind of the line of thinking I have in how Cody Bellinger is not in the starting lineup, barring injury, for the Dodgers in 2022. So, yeah, man, I don't know. He's good still, and we saw that in the postseason. Even if he had to adjust his swing, he figured it out. He was able to shorten it up a little bit. He was able to put the ball in play a little bit. And as we saw, that's kind of what you need in the postseason. He came through a few times, and it was really clutch for the Dodgers and really key for the Dodgers. He also got a key walk ahead of Chris Taylor in the wild card game. He was on base 3 times that game, stole off Yadier Molina twice that game. He can do a bunch of things on the field that maybe you don't or we don't remember because we hadn't seen it in a while or because he had kind of shifted that. Cody Bellinger is a guy who could steal 30 bases a year easy. The Dodgers didn't really need him to do that when he was, clubbing 40 home runs and being one of the best hitters in baseball. But as we saw in the postseason, he can be a guy that can do that. He can be a guy that gets on base and steals and sets up the rest of the lineup. So I don't expect to see Cody Bellinger anywhere but in a Dodger uniform next year, and I don't think you should expect that either. And if you're a fan of another team that thinks you can poach Cody Bellinger by any means, send us ideas or proposals, and we can say, hey, you know what, maybe the Dodgers would do that, but I don't see it happening. I don't even think I think I saw something floated out there like a Cody Bellinger for Gleyber Torres swap, because Gleyber Torres is kind of been giving the Yankees fans fits over there and maybe a change of scenery type thing. I don't think Cody Bellinger was a change of scenery type thing. I just think he had a weird year and it never really worked out until the end. Whereas Gleyber Torres has kind of he might need a change of scenery. He hasn't really quite been the guy they thought he was going to be when he first came up. So that's how it is. That's how it goes. But that's going to do it for this segment. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about a question we got from a listener about injuries that are going to affect the Dodgers in 2022. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. BetOnline has a new interface for the start of basketball season. They're back. They're better than ever. And they got more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all basketball and football action this season. You can head to their new updated website on your laptop or a mobile device and sign up today. If you use the promo code Locked On, you'll get a 50% welcome bonus after your first deposit at BetOnline. Promo code Locked On, 50% welcome bonus after that first deposit. From basketball, football, baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're back and want to once again thank you for making us your first listen every weekday morning. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And yeah, we're here every Monday through Friday. So come join us, make us your first listen every morning. All throughout the off season as well. We'll be here every Monday through Friday. Whether it's just me, whether it's both of us, or whether it's just Jeff, one of us will be here. So we look forward to being here all off season for you fans. All right, so we're going to go to a question that we got on Instagram from Billy Martinez. And I thought it was an interesting question. He said, how do you think that the 2021 season injuries will affect the 2022 season? Dustin May's surgery, Edwin Rios' surgery, Max Muncy's elbow. He mentioned Kershaw, Jimmy Nelson, Joe Kelly, and then Scott Alexander and Garrett Clevenger. Some of those Jeff talked about yesterday, which is, Clayton Kershaw is a free agent. So depending how he feels is going to depend a lot on, or depending if he comes back is going to depend a lot on his health, along with, how he feels he can go at it. I can honestly see Kershaw going a route of maybe giving the Dodgers a little bit of a discount with the knowledge that he's only going to make, like the Rich Hill, he's only going to make 15 to 20 starts a year. He'll take some breaks here and there, maybe some phantom IL stints, and he'll give the Dodgers 15, 20 starts and then be fresh for October. I can see something like that where, Kershaw becomes not a part-time player, but not a full-time 30 start a year type pitcher. And yeah, obviously that's going to be a little bit contingent on how his arm feels. He said it never really quite felt right there later in the year. And it was good news that he didn't need surgery, but there's always the thought of surgery kind of looming when you have injuries like that. Same thing with Joe Kelly and his injury. The only way it affects the Dodgers in 2022 is if the Dodgers bring him back. I'm not entirely sure. And if he's healthy, I'm sure the Dodgers would welcome him back maybe at a cheaper rate than they had him before, even though the last year he probably pitched to where he was making that kind of money. But the Dodgers bullpen is probably one of the stronger features going into the 2022 season. They might lose Kenley Jansen, they might lose Joe Kelly, but they're bringing pretty much everyone else back. Like Trinan will be back, and he can easily slide into that ninth inning role. They got Vesia and Bickford, who were guys this year that can be guys next year. Brule and even Evan Phillips showed some flashes. Maybe they can be some guys coming into the new year. And then they're getting back Tommy Kahnle and Caleb Ferguson theoretically next year, who bring a big presence there. One left-handed guy who can throw 95 plus. They got Tommy Kahnle, who was one of the better relievers before he got hurt. And you're adding those two guys to the mix, and all of a sudden this Dodger bullpen, and Andrew Friedman mentioned it the other day in his press conference, this is probably the best bullpen he's ever had going into a season or going into an offseason. And it's hard to argue with that because they got all the guys that were there as part of this year's very good bullpen, and Bruce Dark Gratterall, and there's a bunch of guys out there, and some of the other guys that might come up. So the Dodgers bullpen is a strength. When it comes to some of these other injuries, Dustin May, I don't expect him to pitch I don't expect him to be a key contributor in 2022 at all. I think he might come up or might pitch late in the year, September, if everything goes right, just to try to get some innings. Maybe pitch himself onto the postseason roster, but I don't know. He's a young pitcher who's very much a part of this Dodgers future. I'm not sure how much they would want to risk that. I think kind of where I see him is maybe like a Julio 2018 type role, where he came up late in the year, had some relief appearances, and then did find himself on the postseason roster. But it's just there's a lot of factors there and a lot of things that are going to depend on a lot of other things. So we'll see what happens there. But Dustin May, Edwin Rios, I would imagine, is expected to be back next year and filling a role on the Dodgers bench, and maybe giving Justin Turner a lot more days off against maybe some tough right-handed pitching. And I would imagine he's supposed to be there. When it comes to all the other guys, it's just going to depend on where the Dodgers see them or how they feel. I don't think there's any other long-term injuries. Hopefully Mookie Betts, he seemed to be right the second half of the season toward the later part of the year. I would imagine that's going to remain the same. That's really all the injuries there was that I can remember that would affect the Dodgers in 2022. So, and we talked about this, and Jeff talked about this. There's a lot of discourse about the 2022 Dodgers and how important this offseason is. But at the end of the day, it's still a playoff contending team, maybe even a World Series contending team, even if they didn't bring back, almost all their free agents. The rotation would be the most important ones, because right now they only have Julio and Walker Buehler as guys that would be in their rotation. But, they're bringing back probably one of the best bullpens in baseball. Even if they theoretically lost Chris Taylor and Corey Seager, you still got Max Muncie, an all-star at first base. You got Gavin Lux at second. You got Trey Turner and all-star MVP candidate at shortstop. You got Justin Turner, all-star candidate, or not an all-star at third base. You got Pollock in left. You got Bellinger in center. You got Mookie in right. You got Will Smith at catcher. Now, beyond that, the depth would definitely be tested, and maybe something the Dodgers will go after if they can't bring back Corey Seager or Chris Taylor. But this Dodgers core of guys that are under contract for 2022 is still very good, and still, like I said, probably one of the best teams in baseball. on paper. And obviously, as we learned in this postseason, you gotta translate that from paper to the field. But the Dodgers haven't had an issue in the regular season in the past 9 years. Even this year, not winning the division, it wasn't necessarily their issue. It was more the Giants really outplaying what everyone expected them to be. So that's pretty much all we got for today. Next week, we'll probably get more into, free agency, more specifically, breaking down some of these guys that will be free agents for the Dodgers and if they need to bring them back, should they bring them back? What kind of contract would the Dodgers probably want to see them come back at? We'll get into some other free agency talk the rest of this winter on who the Dodgers should maybe go after or who they should think about, or any guys that are maybe on the trading block. There's a lot of stuff to get into, and we got all off season to talk about it. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. We'll be back on Monday to talk a little bit about the World Series maybe, and then talk about free agency, I would imagine. So that's what you got to look forward to. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Aaron Layton is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available on all platforms. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for following along. Make sure to follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Samperio. If you want to get a hold of us, you can always send us a text or leave us a voicemail at 323-863-5625, or you can send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com. Make sure to follow subscribe, whatever it's called, on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Tell your smart device, play a podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.